Hello, this is Kate.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to Soul Therapy. So, today we're talking about dating and dating apps because that is what we're offering for our current dating program. So, let's jump in.
Yeah, we're getting lots and lots of problems and lots of questions and people interested in what they're doing wrong and how they can make something more a certain way. So, yeah, jumping into that. I think that I've always been a little bit pro dating apps, actually. I think it's a different way to meet somebody rather than just walking into a bar. I think it's kind of like walking into a bar on your phone, right? Um, But I know that you've had a little bit more of a hate-love relationship with dating.
I was always like very anti dating apps, very traditional in that way, just meeting people organically. I always had the belief like if you're meant to meet someone, you'll meet someone, go and live your life. But the more intentional I've gotten about dating, and I think this just has to do with my values shifting and wanting more community and connection, that I have been driven more into the world of online dating.
Mm,
So I did change. Speaking how we always talk about change and things shifting, it is possible. So my views towards dating apps are now changing. And I figured since we're running this dating program and so many of the people are on dating apps, I'm like, I have to get on here as well so I can understand what is happening.
yeah, absolutely. It's great to do some research. And I think it's also changed for me. So even though I've always been a bit of a fan of dating apps, I think the way that I use them has really changed recently. And it's even changing even now. Because different dating apps are targeted towards different things and different people and different outcomes. And I think in different places you go to, different cities, different countries, there's a different level of use of different dating apps. So not all dating apps are equal, maybe, in that way.
Yeah, I think so. And kind of you always hear about the big three. Like a lot of our clients talk about the big three. You have Hinge, you have Tinder, and then you have Bumble. And they're all very different in like how you attract people, how you can message people. I know like all the women were really into Bumble for a while,
Yeah.
because they had the control and they were the ones that messaged first.
Mhm.
For me, not a huge fan. I've never used Bumble, but I didn't like that idea.
That's really interesting because I was always a big fan of Bumble because of that. So I
Mhm.
found on Tinder, I found it a bit aggressive, the way people kind of messaged me first. It felt a bit like kind of a deluge of people coming towards me. Yeah, I'm trying to be nice about it, but at the same time, I found I wasn't opening the app because I didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I moved
Mhm.
to Bumble because I was like, oh well, I get to choose then, and so this becomes less of a volume problem, maybe if you like, and I
Yeah.
can focus more on quality of who I'm interacting with. But it was really interesting to notice that actually, because I'm making the first move, and that's required on Bumble, um, I noticed that a lot of the guys I'm matching with are not really prepared to craft an interaction, to craft a date, to actually bring a
Yeah.
meet to life. They're just asking me what I want to do. And I don't think they're doing it to be bad. I think they're doing it to be like, okay, well, I'm open to whatever you want to do. But actually, it gets
Mhm.
a bit of a stalemate because I'd like somebody who can take the lead a little bit because I know I can lead my own life. But how does it work when I give that lead over a little bit to someone else in some way?
Exactly. I feel like it does kind of put men in that passive role and it's putting women kind of in the control,
Mm,
which is like very masculine. It's like the world we live in. It is very masculine and like people seem to like to have that sense of control. But yeah, for me, it's like I don't want that. Like I like the man who takes the lead. I like the man who can plan. And I also like a man who can approach you rather than you needing to approach them. So like it literally has like that app seems to have a completely different type of energy to
mm,
it. And it's interesting. I would love to see like if it attracts different people as well compared to like Hinge or Tinder. Like what kind of men, what kind of women are on Bumble? What's kind of the common traits, the patterns as far as energy, thinking of like the masculine and the feminine.
Mm.
How is that working? Because I know some of our clients say, like Bumble, from the male perspective, they haven't met women that they actually connect with on Bumble. And
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing. Maybe it just means they're more masculine men and they do like to take the lead. And that's what they're comfortable with, and, like, on Bumble, it's not really the case.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a case where a lot of the clients have said that they meet people on Bumble that they get on fine with, but it's just not going
Mhm.
to be anything necessarily more. And
Mhm.
we're not saying this about everybody who uses Bumble, and we're not saying this about everybody who connects on Bumble, but just as a trend, I'm really seeing people kind of half enjoying using Bumble, but they're kind of saying it's not working for me, as in they're not meeting
Mhm.
someone that they're going into a relationship with. And I think at the end,
Mhm.
if something's not working for you, change it. That's your choice, right? As
Yeah.
long as you're showing up as who you are, and as long as you are being open to people being who they are, then the reality is,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe what you're looking for is somewhere else. And that doesn't mean that being on Bumble was a waste of time, but it does mean that maybe what you're looking for isn't there.
Exactly, yeah, and kind of like the different patterns and challenges that come up with the different dating apps, right? Like, some people say, yeah, Bumble, like, really hard to meet someone. Tinder is just people who wanna hook up. I've heard, people say Hinge is the most authentic.
Okay.
Hinge is, like, the best quality people where they've met, people who are looking for relationships and wanna be more serious, right? But kind of a common theme from men is their frustration around ghosting, getting ghosted by women. And I've heard some men say there's like this huge gender imbalance on dating apps between men and women.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think ghosting is a huge problem. And I actually think it's a problem for both sides. I think it's a problem for people who are getting ghosted because that doesn't feel good. It feels like you're being
Mhm.
disrespected, that you're not worth something. Um,
Mhm.
but it actually says more about the person doing the ghosting than it does about the person getting ghosted. But I would say that I also think ghosting is bad for the person who is doing the ghosting because they are not bringing
Right?
clear finality to the end of their
Yeah.
interactions. And so that is a part of standing up, being an adult, and having grown up relationships is actually
Right.
bringing a beginning, a middle, and if necessary, an end to that interaction, bringing clarity to it. Maybe you get on fine
Yeah.
with somebody, but it's not what you want right now. Maybe you don't know what's wrong, that why you don't want to speak to them again, but just bring some level of clarity and say, thanks for the
Yeah.
conversation. I think I'm going to go a different way. I think I'm going off the app, or I think of whatever is true to you. I've met someone
Yeah.
else. I'm not interested in you that way. Genuinely,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
owning that process, I think it's really important for the person who would normally be doing the ghosting as well.
Yeah, and some people like get really hurt by getting ghosted. And, that's totally normal and understandable. But then it's also like, thank you for that information because really you don't want to be with someone who can't communicate. And if like someone simply can't say, like, I'm not interested or I met someone else, like, if they don't have that level of communication, did you really want to be in a relationship with them to begin with? Like, would that have really worked out for you? So it's almost like, thank you for showing me who you are. And,
Exactly.
I don't think that would have worked out anyways.
Yeah, I definitely, some people said to me, "Oh, do you ever get ghosted?" And I kind of immediately thought about it. And immediately in my mind, I thought, no, But then I looked back down the app and I was like, oh yeah, I get ghosted. I could see these messages where I'd said something and then the people had just gone away. But to be honest with you, because I'm so accepting that that's them, not me, or that's the
Yeah.
alignment between us isn't there, the connection between us isn't there for whatever reason, I just don't even think about it. I just let them go. I just think, thank you, don't waste my time anymore, kind of thing. So it's really, oh, look
Exactly.
at that coming in.
The kitty. That's the thing with like, I think people's satisfaction on dating apps is if they didn't take things so personally
Mm,
as well, right? Like that realization that it's actually not about you. It tells you everything about the other person, right? And this is where I kind of say like we're all a little bit of narcissists because we tend to think it's all about us. Like when someone behaves in a rude way towards us, we like to think we did something wrong, but really I always like to remind my clients like we're actually not that special. Like, like we don't revolve, our how we are doesn't revolve around other people. Like they're not thinking that much about us, right? They're kind of in their own little world and it's not usually about us at all,
mm,
right? So I think, just that reminder of like they're really not thinking that much about us. Like
mm,
especially if we don't know them, they probably don't care that much about us. Like we're not that special.
mm. I think
Yeah.
when you think about back to the imbalances and that idea of thinking that you like that individual who thinks they've got a problem with an imbalance or they're not making matches, I think really
Mhm.
just allowing that to be part of the flow as well. And I do realize that can be really frustrating, but just the idea that
Yeah.
it's tailoring you towards something else. So if you're letting the apps flow and it's not really flowing, maybe it's starting some conversations off the apps. Maybe that's the time to take it a bit more organic. Maybe it's the time to look at other things in your community that can be ways to connect. Maybe if you want to be somebody who is joining someone and going out dancing in the evening, then join some dance
Yeah.
classes. If you want that
Yeah.
connection, join some partner dance classes and see if you make that connection that way. So I think not thinking of the apps as the answer, the one answer as well, is
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think, that's a great sign that it is time to take a break and step away from the app, right? And maybe focus on other things for a while as if it's not fun anymore,
mm,
right? If it's feeling like a drain, if you're feeling frustrated, you're not going to attract probably the right person when you're operating from that energy, anyways. So
yeah. And what
that is a
are you
time
going
to
to
like
bring to the date?
pause. Exactly. Yeah. Like put the phone down and shift your energy to something else until you're rebalanced because you don't want to be attracting and operating from an energy of frustration, anyways, when you're looking for a potential partner.
Yeah, we don't want frustration. We don't want desperation. We don't want
Mhm.
need, really. We want.
Mhm.
What do I want in someone? Now, you might have personal needs. You might have your needs in life. I need to be with somebody who is like this, or I need to be with somebody who is always there for me, or I need to be with someone who lets me go away for, my own personal holidays or things like that, whatever your needs are. But that means you're going into a date looking for what you want in things, yeah, not needing that from the other person, because if they can't supply it, then that's not a match. Okay, if they're not going to align with that, then that's okay, you can just let them go. And so going in to meet them as a person, not as a potential
Mhm.
anything, you know what you want, but for
Yes.
they.
Yeah. And that's why, one thing we cover in soul therapy dating is like negotiables and non negotiables, wants and needs. What are your deal breakers, right? And actually staying true to them,
Yeah.
right? I don't know how many people will list non negotiables and then next thing you know, they're dating their list of non negotiables, right? So it's like having, having that self awareness of like, okay, I just said this was a non-negotiable and now I'm dating this. Like what, really that honest question of like what's going on here? Is this really going to suit me long term?
Yeah. Definitely. And what I'm really loving about the group right now is that people are starting to find more joy. So this kind of the people who started the membership and started the rotation, who were kind of frustrated and confused and didn't really know what was going on, these people now are enjoying themselves a lot more in dating, and they're bringing that joy with them into all the interactions and all the dates. And so, of course, the interactions and the dates are better. Even if they're not perfectly exactly what they want, they're much better
Mhm.
interactions.
Exactly, right? And it's great support too, right? That community and that connection and that realization that you're not the only one struggling with
Yeah.
this, right? Like you're not the only one who's feeling like overwhelmed by, maybe all the messages or wondering, how am I going to reach this person if they get hundreds of messages every day, right? Like that concern around imbalance, right? It's, taking those things to the group is you realize you're not the only one going through that, right? And the ghosting. And sometimes just having a space to talk about it is really helpful, right?
Absolutely. And it takes it away from that idea of what's wrong with me to recognize
Hmm.
shared experiences, and that
Yeah.
you once you're bringing who you are to a situation, you're accepting someone in that situation for who they are,
Mhm.
kind of just letting it play out, really. And making sure, like I said, nobody's necessarily ghosting or being ghosted, because they're recognizing that they can draw an end to something. So even if somebody
Mhm.
ghosts you, you can decide the end, right? You can decide, instead of waiting for them to continually not reply, you can say, well, that's enough
Yeah.
time, you reply. Because
Yes.
obviously,
Yeah.
as well, if we open it up and we say, well, somebody could have an issue going on in their life, yeah, that's fine, but there's still
Hmm.
a reasonable amount of time to drop you a one liner and say, like, I'm so sorry, I've got an issue. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. That realization that you can draw your own boundaries as well. Right. And that brings things back within your control. And also, another thing, that I think helps with the level of satisfaction on dating apps is like assessing the intention as to why you're on it in the first place. The more open minded you can be about why you're on it versus having that one track outcome mindset of, I need to meet my life partner. There's definitely a correlation between the satisfaction of someone who says, I need to meet my life partner, and someone who's like, I'm on here to build community, to build connections. That may potentially lead to a life partner, but maybe it leads to a friend. Maybe it leads to a business opportunity. Maybe it leads to someone they know who they think would be a better fit, right? So the more open minded you can go in and just enjoy the process rather than focusing on the outcome, the more satisfaction generally you have.
Absolutely, opening it up to be what it will be, and not trying
Yeah.
to force or foster it in any particular direction. I think that comes
Mhm.
when we get clear on what we're looking for. And
Yeah.
going within and just recognizing, hang on, am I looking for what I say I'm looking for right now?
Mhm.
Because it
Yeah.
might not be as true as you think, that your clarity is you're
Mhm.
looking for a life partner right now. Maybe you're looking for somebody who you can connect with right now, who could maybe be a life partner, but you're not
Mhm.
necessarily. If you met somebody and they were ready to turn around and move in together relatively within 6 months and this kind of thing, would you actually be ready for that? Well, maybe not. So then you're kind of
Mhm.
looking for that early stages of connection rather than that life partner right now. And I know it can be difficult because the apps only have a very few categories to choose from. Also,
Mm.
clear one that I recommend for people and that really makes a difference is, if somebody says they're looking for intimacy without commitment, but everything else about their profile is absolutely fabulous, then on what they say they're looking for. Don't try to make them into what you would like them to be. So we're meeting
Right.
people, not potentials, okay? So we're
Yes.
meeting them for who they say they are.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Meeting people, meeting the truth rather than potential. Because the amount of people who fall for potential and then they end up with someone, they look back years later and then, wondering why this person didn't change into the person they thought, right? It's because they fell for potential. There was never a guarantee that that person was going to change. That was a story that you created in your own mind, hoping that it would happen, but it's not accepting the reality of what's in front of you, right? So, honesty, looking at the reality of what's in front of you rather than falling for potential, which might never actually happen.
Right, absolutely, definitely. So I think we would also really invite everybody. We're having a great time on our current dating programs. We run ones for just for women, and we run ones just for men as well, so that we can kind of tailor it. We also have elite membership, so for individuals, and we have one-to-one sessions too. So we would really encourage people to get in contact and get involved in something, particularly these dating groups can really bring back the joy and the fun and the connection which changes the
Mhm.
way you show up in your dating life.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll give some good tips as well, right? Like, I'm a therapist as far as looking at red flags, the trends I see working with couples, really insightful stuff that will help you attract what you're looking for and kind of weed through everything else.
Exactly, and a great sounding board. So when things come up and you're not quite sure about them or you're not quite sure what they mean, then of course we can find the answers buried in there for you.
Absolutely. All right, Katie. Well, that was a great chat, and we hope to see everyone soon.